Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Voices in Tech podcast. I am your host, Lee and I am joined with Omari Allen. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, it's nice to have me. Thank you for having me.
Thanks
Um,
for being here.
my name is Omari Allen. I am a senior computer science major at the University of Maryland. I am also a photographer on the side. So I shoot birthdays, weddings. I've done maternity pictures before. Um, yeah, and the reason I chose computer science was so that I can have access to the creative space in the tech world and mix both hobbies.
Mm. It's a unique mix between photography and computer science. I feel like you're
Yeah,
also at Couture magazine.
yeah, it's not too many. I don't see too many creatives in the tech world. Um, so I'm hoping to at least bring some type of representation in that field or enter more spaces outside of just computer engineering.
Okay, okay. Today we're gonna be talking about exact. We're gonna be talking exactly about that. What it's like being a black creative in spaces that don't always center identity, but identity still shows up in the work anyway. All right, let's get started. What got you into photography?
Honestly, um, I was into photography before knowing I was into photography. When I was 16, I would always watch YouTube videos, Casey Neistat and Peter McKinnon. They would always do like camera reviews, and I'd be so interested in them, or any type of tech reviews, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was something about the camera reviews that I always tuned in on, and they were really influential on me. And it wasn't until I was 18 that my dad had gotten me a camera. My first camera was a Canon Rebel T6, I think.
Oh.
About $400 he spent, and he said that I needed to make sure like I used the camera.
Hmm.
So my freshman year at Morgan, I essentially made a bunch of friends, as many friends as I could, and I would ask them if they were down for like free photo shoots, and I would just test out camera things just to get a feel for photography. Um, After that, I joined fashion at Morgan. It was a fashion modeling team at Morgan State,
Oh.
and I was their photographer or one of their photographers. From there, they would have different type of photo shoots planned out. Um, they had me to shoot a couple of them, and I believe after my first or second photo shoot with them, that's when I started picking up Photoshop too. And after my first photo shoot, I learned that I was really good. The pictures came out really nice. They blew up a little bit on Twitter at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and from there, like, just kept using the models as like practice for getting better. But I primarily put my focus into editing because I feel like capturing the picture was something that any photographer could do, but it was something about learning the software that would make the picture pop more.
Back then, like, did you have a specific style of like editing or like type of photography you were into?
I think my style at the time was like very colorful, make it artistic, make it something that you would see in a museum if you could. It was almost
Mm-hmm.
like a pop culture art using like different shapes and colors, but also doing shapes and colors that will complement the model's skin tone. Um, I primarily shoot black African American models for the most part. Um, so playing around with different colors and contrasts without changing their skin tone too much was something that was interesting to learn.
Mm-hmm. And now that you've grown into your craft and you have an outstanding portfolio, how do you say your style has like evolved since first getting into photography?
I think a part of me was honestly, I would think too much on how people would perceive my photography because I feel like I was so into the likes. I was so into like how many shares it got. And I
Mm-hmm.
think because I put my focus into that so much, I continuously changed how I shot for the sake of like what the client wanted whenever they asked me to do a shoot. So it became less and less of like that pop culture art that I was doing and more of like, I guess you can say like a lifestyle type of shoot or like keep it
Mm-hmm.
as natural as possible. But in that process of creating for others, I think I found a love for it in an interesting, odd way where I've had clients tell me like they like my work because of how natural it looks. And I think that's something like I aim to work on while also adding back that creative element back into it. So
Mm-hmm.
now it's like I'm creating things that aren't real, but keeping them as realistic as possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
not making the skin too soft, not making the model look like they're not real or
Airbrushed
like,
and
yeah, like generated.
damn near AI.
Yeah. Um, and just keeping it almost like, yeah, essentially as natural as possible. Um, and it's honestly turned out for the better. And I think it also has bettered my skills as a editor because it goes a lot into like when you're learning Photoshop and editing models, you become more than just a photographer. You become like a makeup artist. You have to learn how to
Yep.
blend skin tones, blend makeup, blend light
Things
and
that you
darks.
didn't catch
Yeah,
during the shoot, all that.
you're blending the hair to make sure like the edges and flyaways are in place. You're doing lashes, making sure the eye color is like white, teeth whitening. It's almost like becoming a hygienist on software. But
Mm-hmm.
through that process of finding like my knack, my niche in
Yeah.
like the natural photography world, I think I've also fallen in love with it.
Mm. Uh, you said something about creating for others. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so when I was about 19, 20, I followed this photographer. His name's Jacob Webster. He's from the DMV area and he went to Towson. And it was one year when I was 19 or 20, he went to Howard's homecoming. He outreached and networked with Lori Harvey, who was the host, I think, of their homecoming at that year.
Hmm.
Did her lifestyle pictures, and from there, like he's blown up. But even before then, his work was like really good.
Hmm.
But one thing about his work was it was less of the Photoshop editing and more of like creative directing. I think his creative direction is what really made his work stand out. And that's what made I seen like his work would get a lot of likes, a lot of views, a lot of traction on Twitter and Instagram. So from there, that's kind of what made me draw away from the type of art that I was doing and focus more on my creative direction and the natural looks in the photography. Um, but I think I was just trying to appeal more to what I felt like the algorithm was allowing to blow up on Instagram and less of what I wanted and making what
Hmm.
I wanted blow up also with like proper promotion and proper editing skills.
Uh, just from when you were 18 to like now, can you talk about like the challenges you've encountered in like building your portfolio and like getting recognition? Like you said, some of your work blew up, but then has it changed in like the work that blows up now that you found your flow?
I think it all comes down to a matter of consistency.
Hmm.
Doing something as tedious as tech in college and trying to also do photography, it's a balance that like doesn't really work unless you make ample time for everything.
Hmm.
So juggling school, having a part-time job, and doing photography, there's just no time for one particular thing. I think my work has always been able to blow up, but because I lacked the consistency needed in posting, Instagram might see my work as, oh, this page is like inactive. We don't have a
Mm-hmm.
reason to push his pictures to even to people to that he follows already or follows him. Um, so just juggling like real life stuff has kind of put a dent in how much my work blows up. But I think within that inconsistency, I'm thankful for still having the friends who seen my work and seen what I can do. And every year that I get better and I post like one or two pictures,
Mm.
they're like still booking. And every time that they book, like I somehow get better and better with each shoot
The
to a
OGs.
point where like even from last year to now, my work has gotten even better because I'm just learning new skills and even software is getting better every year, even with AI being implemented.
Mm.
Um, the workflow has become faster and easier to manage. So I think with that, like it allows a space. Like there's also, I feel like there's that opportunity for me to have my work blow up, but because I'm less focused on that and I try to make my photography seem more of a creative outlet than just a business model, um, it feels good to create when I want and not have to worry about the likes and views and stuff like that.
See that? Let's get into the representation. The main focus of this project and this podcast is representation, and I think people don't always realize that being behind the camera is just as important as being in front of it. How do you think your role as a photographer, specifically a black photographer, contribute to that being behind the camera and bringing representation and like the photography and the creative space?
I think one of the most important things of being a photographer, a black photographer at that, I think bringing representation in the models is what matters most to me. Um, at the time, I didn't realize how, I guess, how big of a deal it is to like shoot a bunch of black women, um, doing photo shoots with black women, different shades, different colors, different
Mm-hmm.
sizes, and making them feel beautiful. And they post my work on their page, and then other people see that, and other black girls, black women are like, wow, she's beautiful, like I can be that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of spreads this ideal, this very important ideal, that you don't have to fit in a particular niche like the fashion world portrays. I feel like the black women that they choose to be, like you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be a tall, skinny, slender woman to still be beautiful and I guess important in the world of fashion and photography and media. Um, and even being behind the camera and being the one shooting the scenes and the portraits, I feel like it's also important for other people who look like me to know that like you can pick up this skill without it being overbearing, without it seeming like there's not a market for you in that field.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a plethora of black photographers, but in the fast fashion world, I feel like we're not as represented.
And like a commercial space
Yeah,
and the high high end people.
yeah, like high end fashion, commercial shooting, clothing brands like Balenciaga or Louis Vuitton. And
Mm.
even when we do enter those spaces, I feel like the models are typically like,
Limit
yeah, like
limited
really
to like
dark skin, um, African descent, which is really good. But I feel like it's almost like a,
stereotypical.
yeah, it's stereotypical. It's almost like a fetish for that type of look.
Yeah,
Like if we're gonna get black people, we're gonna get like I guess the blackest people we can find type of thing. And it's kind
it's
of weird.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's you can honestly find any beautiful black man or woman on the street somewhere or in the modeling industry when they actually apply
Hmm.
for those roles. And I feel like they would do just as good as any other model.
I think it'd be really cool to see like different representation of like black people in like high commercial scene in industry, but we're getting there.
Getting there
Yes.
slowly.
Let's talk about your experience at Couture magazine. What is the club about?
So Couture Mag is a magazine made by for um, people of different backgrounds, mainly black and those we feel like are underrepresented on campus and in the fast fashion world. We we tend to create a space for creatives to like be seen, be noticed. Our first issue when I joined up last year was music, and we had people who were like up and coming artists, rappers, drummers, guitarists, just anything in the music industry that where people wanted to have like that platform to perform.
Mm-hmm.
We even hosted something called Unplugged, where we sold tickets to for people to come and see these same artists that we put in the magazine perform and give them that platform to perform their music and get more fans, get more streams. And we put that money towards printing the magazines that we're working on now, which um, this magazine title is Fashion Around the World. So we're doing a
Wow.
bunch of different, outreaching to like a bunch of different Black people, ethnic groups on what type of fashion they wear in their culture.
Mm-hmm.
So we recently did like a hijabi shoot. Um, we were planning on doing like a African ensemble type of shoot.
Oh.
Um, Another one we did, I think we were doing like black hair. So we had a hairstylist come in and like six, seven models, and we had like two with cool designs in the cornrow, one
Oh.
with like a
Oh
star.
wow.
Um, we had pink locks. We had someone with like spiky hair, and it was honestly really cool. So since joining the mag, I've reached up to like e-board position lead photographer, which is pretty cool
Wow.
in such a short amount of time.
The lead
Um,
photographer.
yeah. So
Mm.
I host or plan most of the photo shoots that we do. If we ever need more photographers, I'll like outreach to different photographers on campus who also need a platform and would like to have those models to practice their craft and see their work in a magazine, actually physical copy, like printed out.
That really is what it's all about.
Yeah, clock it, clock
Clock it.
it.
Kind of like bringing other black photographers into this space, but just as a photographer, just being part of like the creative process and like being the one to, I don't know, present these creative ideas
Mhm.
going on. Like, what has that experience been like for you and just your photography experience?
I think going back to when I had mentioned like the creative direction and wanting to better my creative direction,
Hmm.
I think this has given me that platform to do that. Because one thing I couldn't do at Fashion at Morgan at the time, because I was an entry level photographer, was like input too much of my idea. Or I was able to give my idea, but it was up to the president as far as like what she wanted to be um, put on the Instagram page or what type of photo shoots we were doing. So I aided in bringing her vision to life, and I'd add my own Photoshop elements to it. But with this position at the stage that I'm at now, I'm able to come up with the ideas like from the ground up.
Wow.
So I get to choose the model I feel like will look good with a certain look, create that look around the model and what I feel like works best for them, their shape, their size, skin tone, everything. And then I also, because I have the gear and the accessibility to essentially like do whatever type of shoot. So backdrop shoots, I can
Hmm.
use that. I have the means to do like an outdoor shoot somewhere, make
Hmm.
it look like it's grungy or urban or something like that. Um, it's been fun, honestly. It's been pushing me to be better. And to have people who really like my work is like what it's all about for me, honestly. And to have that platform to create unapologetically is like really important.
I feel like you've been really involved in like fashion
Hmm.
as a photographer. Are you into fashion as an individual?
I am, but it tends to come and go a little bit.
Mm.
Like I'll pick up on like fashion trends and like I'll like peek my head in the door to see like what's trending, what's going on, what brands are on the come up. But I try not to like get too involved in that, especially with TikTok like pushing everything all at once. I feel like the fashion world has become what it's supposed to be in a sense that there is no one way to dress good or to look good. I think it's whatever
You feel,
fits you.
yeah.
And because everything is trending all at once, it gives you that platform to like wear whatever you want and feel comfortable in it without it feeling like a trend. Now it's just a matter of, okay, I'm wearing this because I like it.
Would you ever like consider going into like the commercial, high commercial space in the fashion world, like as a photographer?
I would, but I feel like it depends because black photographers aren't represented in that space
Mm.
as much as I believe that they are or should be. I think my work, as good as it may be, would be limited to what the magazine may want. I think it's good for the platform if I just wanted to shoot. If my goal was like only to shoot high fashion brands or shoot high fashion photo shoots with certain models, um, then yeah, I would go that route, that avenue. But if I wanted to shoot those brands but also maintain that creative element that I'm able to create, I think that would be a much more suitable thing for me than to like put myself back in that box.
Uh, Overall, like with the maybe the fashion world, the photography world, like what are some trends that are like that you're seeing that don't sit right with you, if there are any?
The only trend, well, I can't really say that there's a trend that I don't like that I see. I think one thing that I do like
Hmm.
um, is the integration of computer software when it comes to photography.
Yeah, I
I
was
think
gonna.
without computers, like photography just becomes the picture itself, like straight out of the camera. Um, but with the advancements of Photoshop, Lightroom, all the other Adobe or non-Adobe products, and even AI, um, and 3D. I've seen a lot of people like implement Blender in their type of photography work, which adds a whole other complex layer of art to that form.
Hmm.
And to see the meta change like on a yearly basis, it kind of pushes everyone to also learn that new skill. Like even for me, I'm thinking about learning 3D software just to add that into my work because I know it's something that everyone isn't doing.
Hmm.
But I think that's what the fun in it is to be able to master a craft, but also know that there's still space to learn new things, even though
True.
you've learned a lot. Um, I think the one thing I have seen that I dislike, I know I said I didn't really see much, but one thing I don't like, I guess, is like the gatekeeping of skills. I
What do you
understand it though,
mean?
because I feel like with photography being so saturated, if everyone knew how to do it, no one would feel special.
True.
But at the same time, if everyone learned the skill, I think it would push whoever can get out of that box to create a new meta, which would then drive everyone in photography to change even more. And it would be like a continuous evolution of photography and what we know as art as a whole.
True. True. You're graduating as a CS major really soon.
Hmm.
So how have you mixed both worlds, like photography and tech? I know we were just talking about it, but how have that been for you personally? Are there things that you learn in like your classes or just as a computer science major that you kind of like try to implement in the photography world?
I think one of the entry level things that I'm learning, still currently working on, um, is like website building. I know that's like, I wouldn't say cliche, but it's something that photographers, they tend to go for. I wouldn't say it's mandatory, but it makes your work a lot more professional having a
Uh,
website. It makes you look more professional. But being able to build it yourself, I think adds like another layer of, oh, this guy, this girl knows what they're doing. Like, I should get with them.
showing
And
off your work
yeah,
in the
to
way
be
that
able
you
to
want
say that I not only built this website, but I edited and shot
the
these
photos.
photos. It's like, wow, like this guy is like, he has all
Means
these skills.
business.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff to add to that resume. Booked and busy. And in the process of making that website and learning these skills, I think I would stand out more as a photographer and as like not a software engineer, but maybe like a front end or back end developer or something like that. I think it plays into both worlds where if I wanted to build that resume for photography, like I've created that avenue. But if I also wanted to focus more on computer science a given day, I'd also like build that resume in that avenue as well at the same time.
Do you see yourself ever like choosing one more over the other?
I think my heart will always do like photography and media more
Mm-hmm.
because that's that creative outlet that I can't let go of. And I'm trying to find a way to make computer science feel like that without it feeling like a forceful thing. But I
True.
think that's just how America or like the job market in general has made all these skills feel like when you make everything about money, I feel like you lose the will to want to learn or the will to keep doing it because
Of
it just feels
course.
like a job and less like
Yeah.
a passion.
Mm-hmm. But you're doing photography for money though.
I
What's the
am,
difference between
but it's different. It's a little different
how?
because with photography, you choose what clients you because you don't have to pick up a client just because they like outreach to you. So you can choose what products, not products, but what I guess photo shoots you'd want to do, what projects you want to take on. Um, and even though I take on most of them, it's still like they're entrusting me to not only take the pictures, but to still add my own creative element. Because when people book you and they see your work on your page, they're not just booking you because you're a photographer, they're booking you specifically because they like your work.
Need the outcome.
Yeah. So they give me that creative space to work on their vision, but add
Mm-hmm.
my vision, like without any, I guess, pushback or without boxing me in,
Yeah.
whatever their space may be. So even though I'm like doing something to their liking, I'm still doing my own thing at the same time. And it works out for both parties.
Period. As it should.
Hmm.
To wrap up, are there anything you're looking forward to, maybe within the industry or just personal, your own personal venture?
I think I'm just looking forward to the meta changing even more. I would love to see how this AI thing plays out when it comes to editing software. I'm interested to see how we can make 3D software more accessible, more learnable for the average photographer or the average person, and see how we can integrate that world of like big 3D objects in the real world and mash it into something very beautiful.
Wait, I don't think we really talked about this. I knew we were gonna wrap up, but like AI, I just feel like there's a lot of like negative connotation between using AI to do creative work. Like I know with the art and stuff, it's like, oh, you can't tell the difference between real art and like AI art. But when it comes to photography, it's like, okay, let's go ahead and use it because why not?
Hmm.
But yeah, so what are your thoughts specifically on like using AI? Do you use it or
I do
just something
use
you
it,
see?
but I don't use it to create something that I'm working on creating.
Hmm.
So if there's ever like a distraction in the background of a picture, I'm using AI to
Ah,
like generate what it would have looked like if that distraction wasn't there.
true.
And then from there, I'm adding my elements. So I'm using it as less of a driver and more of just like a backseat passenger to my
Hmm.
work or my workflow. I think most people try to use it as a front driver of their work, and I think that's where the issues lie. Because of like environmental issues, I don't think AI should be overused, but
True.
it is very
Absolutely.
helpful in like,
The tedious tasks.
yeah, things that were things that would make the pictures look choppy before are now looking smoother with AI.
Hmm. Just like when we used to edit things off the background, like people off the background, but it
Yeah.
looks really wonky. But
Hmm.
now it just looks very seamless.
So yeah, it makes the workflow a little better at the very least. But I wouldn't use it to create the whole picture or the whole background. I think I would leave that up to like Photoshop and Blender and
Hmm.
learning a new skill.
All right. Thank you so much for being here today. And really appreciate you taking the time to talk about your experience.
Thank you for having me.
All right.